In the heart of Burkina Faso, over 3 assassination attempts have threatened the life of President Ibrahim Traoré, a man standing at the crossroads of power, justice, and survival. Each time, against overwhelming odds, a mysterious force seemed to shield him, protecting him from the shadows lurking dangerously close. But what is this unseen power? And how far would one go to defend what is right in a world riddled with betrayal, violence, and injustice? Tonight, we embark on a journey through a tale that blurs the lines between reality and legend. While this story is woven from threads of fiction, the emotions it carries, fear, hope, courage, and resilience, are as real as the challenges faced by those who fight for a better world. Prepare yourself to dive deep into a saga of loyalty and deceit, power and humility, and the unyielding quest to protect the light amid encroaching darkness. The sun rose over Ouagadougou like a blazing promise, casting golden light across the bustling capital city of Burkina Faso. The morning air was thick with a mix of scents. The earthy aroma of freshly turned soil mingled with the faint, sweet fragrance of blooming jacaranda trees lining the streets. Birds sang their lively melodies, and the distant hum of traffic blended with the rhythmic clatter of footsteps on cobblestone. At the heart of the city stood the presidential palace, a grand fortress of gleaming marble and towering golden gates, reflecting the power and prestige of a nation's leader. The palace buzzed with relentless activity. Guards in crisp uniforms patrolled the perimeter with sharp eyes, their polished boots echoing in precise cadence. Ministers and aides hurried past, clutching folders thick with papers, their faces etched with urgency and determination. Servants moved silently, tending to duties unseen but essential to maintaining the palace's immaculate order. Amid this whirlwind of authority and purpose, a single figure stood out, not by prominence, but by stark contrast. Outside the palace gates, partially hidden in the morning shadows, stood an old woman. She was like a ghost against the opulence, wrapped in torn, faded garments that once might have been fine, now tattered and worn by years of hardship. Her slippers were threadbare, barely hanging to her feet, and her hair was hidden beneath a grimy scarf stained by time and dust. Clutched in one hand was a small brown bag, frayed at the edges, while the other gripped a weathered wooden walking stick, knotted and scarred from long use. Despite her humble and fragile appearance, the woman radiated a quiet determination that pierced through the indifferent morning bustle. Passers-by glanced at her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Some shook their heads in disdain, muttering about her being a beggar. Others whispered rumors about why she might be here, near the seat of the nation's power. No one knew her name, her origin, or the true purpose that had brought her to this place. The palace gatekeeper, a tall, imposing soldier named Abdul, stood watchful by the golden doors. When the woman approached and quietly requested to see the president, his reaction was swift and dismissive. "Mama, this is no marketplace. You cannot just come here and demand to see the president," he said with a hard edge. His voice carried not just authority, but an underlying irritation, a clear message that she was unwelcome. Yet the woman's eyes did not waver. Calm and steady, she replied, "I did not come by mistake. I have traveled far and have a message for him." The tension thickened. Abdul's grip tightened on his spear, but he said nothing more, signaling for her to leave. Instead, she lowered herself onto a small rock by the gate, unwavering, her gaze fixed on the palace walls as if they held secrets meant only for her to reveal. As minutes stretched into hours, the morning sun climbed higher, scorching the street and turning the palace gates into blazing sentinels of gold. The crowd that gathered was a mix of indifference, derision, and growing curiosity. Some onlookers whispered about the mysterious woman. Was she mad? Was she dangerous? Why was she so persistent? Among the observers, a few felt a flicker of something else, a strange respect for her silent endurance, a sense that this was no ordinary beggar, but no one dared approach or speak with her. The palace guards exchanged uneasy glances, while officials debated whether to involve higher authorities. The old woman's presence outside the palace was like a silent challenge to the power inside, a living enigma wrapped in rags, holding a secret that threatened to unravel the carefully guarded peace. Her story had not yet been told, but for those who dared to watch, The first whispers of an extraordinary journey were beginning. The question lingered in the air. Who was she, and what message did she carry that compelled her to stand unyielding before the gates of the most powerful man in the country? No one knew, but everyone felt in that shimmering morning heat that something remarkable was about to unfold. Beneath the relentless midday sun, the old woman remained seated on the small, rough stone beside the palace gate, her posture steady despite the sweltering heat and the gnawing hunger that surely tormented her thin frame. The worn fabric of her clothes clung to her frail body, soaked with sweat, yet she did not shift or complain. Around her the world continued in its busy, indifferent rhythm, but she sat silently, a fixture as immovable as the towering walls behind her. The guards glanced her way occasionally with varying degrees of annoyance or disinterest, but no one dared approach. Passers-by whispered in hushed tones, their voices carrying a mixture of fear, scorn, and curiosity. "Is she mad?" one woman muttered as she hurried past, clutching her child's hand tightly. Another man shook his head and muttered something about a troublemaker seeking attention. The atmosphere buzzed with speculation. Why did this ragged old woman insist on lingering at the seat of power? What message could she possibly carry? Yet amid these whispers, no one stepped forward to engage her, as if an invisible barrier separated her from the world of privilege and authority that pulsed just beyond the gates. Among the crowd, a young woman in a neat blue uniform moved closer. Khadija, a trusted aide to President Ibrahim Traoré, was different from the others. Her gaze lingered on the old woman with something akin to empathy and curiosity rather than judgment. There was a softness in Khadija's eyes, a genuine kindness, but also a flicker of uncertainty. Her footsteps slowed as she approached the seated figure, her heart pounding not just with concern, but with a strange, unexplainable pull. Something about this woman defied her assumptions, an aura of calm and wisdom that seemed out of place in the dusty rags and worn slippers. Their eyes met, a brief but profound moment. The old woman's gaze was steady, serene, and somehow full of stories that words could never fully capture. It was as if she held a secret too heavy for speech, a knowledge deeper than what lay on the surface. Khadija felt a shiver run down her spine, a whisper of something ancient and powerful. In that instant, the invisible barrier between them seemed to thin, and Khadija's mind raced with questions. Who was this woman? What had brought her here, to this place of power and danger? What message did she carry that demanded an audience with the president himself? Caught between duty and instinct, Khadija wrestled with her own conscience. Her orders were clear. Maintain order. Do not let strangers disturb the peace. And above all, protect the president from unnecessary risks. Yet the woman's silent determination stirred something inside her. A call to compassion, a sense that this was no ordinary visitor, no mere nuisance to be brushed aside. The conflict churned within Khadija. Should she follow the rigid rules that bound her role, or heed the mysterious pull that urged her to listen and help? The crowd around them remained oblivious to this quiet exchange, still wrapped in their judgments and gossip. But Khadija stood frozen, torn, as the old woman's presence anchored itself deeper into her thoughts. The palace, with its gleaming halls and imposing gates, seemed momentarily distant, replaced by the unspoken gravity of the moment. The sun blazed down, but time felt suspended, caught between the woman's unwavering patience and the simmering tension in the air. As minutes slipped by, a question hung heavily over the scene. What was the true purpose of this enigmatic figure? What unseen force compelled her to endure heat, hunger, and scorn just to stand before the president? The answer was locked behind those calm, wise eyes, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. In the silence, the old woman simply waited, as if her very patience was a message. And in that waiting, she held the attention of one young aide whose life was about to change forever. After what felt like hours of silent endurance, Khadija finally stepped forward, her heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and resolve. Approaching the stern-faced guards who guarded the palace gates like vigilant sentinels, she quietly but firmly made her case. "This woman has traveled far with an important message for the president," she said softly, her voice carrying a note of conviction that cut through their skepticism. The guards exchanged uncertain glances. After all, protocol dictated no one could simply walk into the palace, especially someone in such tattered clothes. Yet Khadidia's sincerity and the unshakable calm in the woman's eyes seemed to sway them. Reluctantly, they stepped aside and allowed the old woman through the grand gates for the first time. As she crossed the threshold, whispers rippled through the gathered onlookers and palace staff. Heads turned, eyebrows raised, and murmurs spread like wildfire. "Who is she? How dare she enter here?" Some looked on with disbelief, others with barely concealed disdain. Yet the woman walked slowly, deliberately, her worn slippers making little sound against the polished marble floors. The vastness of the ornate halls, the gleam of golden walls and chandeliers, the exquisite tapestries that adorned the corridors, all seemed to whisper of power and wealth, but she remained unimpressed. Her gaze was steady, unfazed by the grandeur that sought to overwhelm any visitor. Khadija walked beside her, guiding but silent, sensing the weight of what was to come. They reached the heart of the palace, the private chamber where President Ibrahim Traoré awaited. Unlike the opulence around him, Ibrahim wore a simple white outfit, a stark contrast that spoke volumes about his character. His demeanor was calm and composed, with a gentle smile that softened the harsh realities he faced daily. There was a quiet strength in his eyes, a balance between authority and humility that earned him respect from those around. When the door opened, the two figures faced each other in a moment thick with anticipation. Silence stretched, heavy and electric, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Neither spoke at first. Instead, a profound respect passed between them. The old woman's steady gaze meeting the president's curious yet guarded eyes. Time seemed to slow, the outside world fading into insignificance within that room. Finally, the woman reached into her small battered brown bag and produced a wooden box, worn with age and delicately carved with intricate patterns. She placed it gently on the president's desk, the soft thud resonating like a heartbeat in the quiet room. "I come with a gift," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight beyond words. "And a message." President Ibrahim leaned forward, eyes fixed on the box, a mixture of curiosity and caution flickering across his face. The moment hung suspended, the promise of revelation tantalizingly close, yet just out of reach. With deliberate care, the woman lifted the lid of the box, and inside lay something that would change everything. The wooden box, though small and unassuming, held treasures that seemed imbued with centuries of history and silent power. Nestled carefully inside was a small white stone, smooth and shining with a subtle, almost otherworldly glow. Its surface was flawless, cool to the touch, as if it had been polished by the hands of time itself. Alongside the stone lay a folded piece of cloth, its fabric delicate yet sturdy, embroidered intricately with golden patterns that caught the light with every subtle movement. The cloth radiated a quiet dignity, a symbol of resilience woven thread by thread. The woman's voice was soft yet steady as she began to explain the significance of her gift. "This stone," she said, lifting it gently so the president could see, "is called the Stone of Mercy. It holds the power to bring peace and clarity to leaders who rule with justice and kindness. It is a reminder that true strength lies not in force or fear, but in compassion and fairness." Her eyes met his, calm and unwavering, as if challenging him to understand the weight of her words beyond their surface meaning. "The cloth," she continued, "was woven by the hands of widows from my homeland. It symbolizes the strength and blessings of women who have endured loss and hardship yet remain unbroken. Together, they are gifts meant to protect and guide." President Ibrahim's expression shifted subtly, a blend of skepticism and growing curiosity. He was a man forged by the harsh realities of leadership, one who had learned to question and analyze every claim. Yet there was something about the stone's serene glow and the delicate beauty of the cloth that stirred a quiet respect within him. The room seemed to hold its breath as he studied the gifts, sensing they carried more than mere symbolism. They were tangible connections to a deeper truth, perhaps a spiritual safeguard in a world fraught with unseen dangers. Despite the profound nature of her offering, the woman remained humble and reserved. When the president asked about her identity and where she came from, she simply shook her head. "My name and country are not important," she said quietly. "What matters is the message I bring and the trust you place in these gifts." Her words carried the weight of mystery and authority, as if she were a messenger from beyond the known world, sent to guide a leader on a perilous path. The atmosphere in the room was thick with reverence. The contrast between the old woman's simple appearance and the significance of her gift only deepened the sense of awe. She was a paradox, unassuming yet powerful, silent yet commanding. President Ibrahim felt a stirring within him, a connection to something larger than himself, a call to embrace the burdens and blessings of his role with renewed faith. As the woman's calm presence filled the space, the president reached out to touch the stone once more, feeling its cool smoothness grounding him. The golden patterns of the cloth seemed to shimmer with unseen energy, a reminder that strength could come from the most unexpected places. In that moment, doubt gave way to a quiet conviction that these gifts were not just relics of the past, but living symbols meant to guide him forward. The chapter closed on this silent exchange of trust and hope, leaving an unspoken promise lingering in the air. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with mercy and strength, it might yet be one of justice and light. The old woman's gaze deepened, and her voice took on a solemn, almost reverent tone as she leaned closer, the shadows of the room wrapping around her like a cloak. "I have not come by chance," she began softly, "but because I was sent by a higher power. Allah." Her words hung in the air, charged with a sacred weight. "Many nights I have dreamed of you, Ibrahim. I have seen your destiny woven into the fabric of our world. You are not merely a leader by chance, but chosen to carry a burden greater than yourself." She paused, letting the gravity of her message settle between them. The president listened intently, the room silent except for the soft rustle of the carved box resting on the desk. Though he was a man hardened by the trials of leadership, there was a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes as he absorbed her words. She continued, "But with great power comes great peril. The path ahead is riddled with dangers you cannot yet see. False friends will smile with sweet words, but their hearts harbor shadows. Enemies wear the faces of allies, walking beside you as serpents in the grass. You must keep your eyes wide open, Ibrahim. Trust in Allah, but do not let your guard down." The warning felt like a heavy stone settling in the pit of the president's stomach. Leading a nation was never simple, but to be told that those closest could be the greatest threat stirred a tempest of fear and uncertainty. He had always known power carried burdens, yet to hear it voiced so clearly brought the weight crashing down with a new intensity. The room seemed to close in, the grand walls shrinking around him as the responsibility pressed heavier on his shoulders. Still, there was hope in the woman's words, a promise that guidance and protection would accompany him if he remained steadfast and true. "You are not alone," she said gently. "Though the nights may grow dark and the road treacherous, your purpose is just. Do not lose heart. The people love you because you shine a light in the darkness. But beware, those who fear the light will seek to extinguish it." Her eyes bore into his, calm yet fierce, a reminder that leadership was as much a battle of spirit as of strategy. President Ibrahim's mind raced with conflicting emotions. Fear gripped him, yet beneath it, a resilient flame of acceptance flickered. He realized the price of his role, a lonely vigil in the shadows, constant vigilance, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The dreams the woman spoke of were no mere fantasies. They were a call to awaken fully to the challenges ahead, to embrace the weight of the crown with humility and courage. For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken fears and hopes. Then the president reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and placed it over the stone once more. It felt cool and steady, a small but potent anchor amid the storm raging within him. The golden cloth beside it seemed to shimmer faintly, a beacon of strength woven from sacrifice and resilience. The old woman's presence remained a steady force, her quiet authority offering solace and warning in equal measure. "Remember," she said softly, "power is a heavy burden, but it becomes dangerous when carried with pride. Humility will be your shield and kindness your sword. Lead with your heart, Ibrahim, but keep your eyes wide open. The fate of a nation rests in your hands." As her words echoed in the stillness, The president felt the enormity of his mission settle deep within him. Vulnerable yet resolute, he understood that the journey ahead would test every ounce of his strength and faith. The old woman had come not only to warn, but to empower, a divine messenger guiding a leader chosen to protect his people against forces seen and unseen. And with that, a new chapter in his life began, one marked by both daunting peril and the unwavering hope that justice and mercy could prevail against the darkness. The old woman carefully reached into her worn brown bag and withdrew a small, rolled-up prayer mat. Its fabric was simple, yet the craftsmanship spoke of reverence and devotion. She placed it gently before President Ibrahim Traoré, her eyes filled with quiet hope. "This," she said softly, "is for when the burden feels too heavy and the path too dark. Use it to find strength and guidance in moments of doubt. When you kneel upon this mat and speak to the one who called you, you will find the clarity and courage needed to lead justly." The president accepted the mat with solemn gratitude, feeling the weight of its significance settle upon him. It was more than a mere object. It was a symbol of faith and resilience, a spiritual tool to steady his heart in the storms to come. The woman's presence was calming yet commanding, as if her very being carried the wisdom of ages. She then spoke her final words, heavy with warning and grace. "Power is heavy, Ibrahim, but it becomes dangerous when carried with pride. Remember that kindness is stronger than fear, and humility will protect you where strength alone cannot. Lead not for glory, but for the good of your people. Stay true to your purpose, even when the road is lonely and filled with shadows." President Ibrahim looked into her eyes, a mix of determination and reverence swelling within him. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for your gift and your message. I promise to honor them, to lead with the heart and vigilance you have urged." The woman gave a gentle smile but shook her head when he offered hospitality. "My time here is done," she said softly. "I came to deliver a message, not to stay. Let me leave the way I came, quietly and without fanfare." Without another word, she gathered her belongings and walked toward the palace door, her steps slow but purposeful. As she disappeared beyond the threshold, a hush settled over the room. The weight of her visit lingered like a sacred breath, a presence that could not be forgotten. President Ibrahim remained seated, gazing thoughtfully at the prayer mat and the stone now resting on his desk. The grandeur of the palace faded into the background, replaced by a solemn awareness of the journey that lay ahead. In that quiet moment, he reflected deeply on the burdens of leadership, the fragility of trust, and the strength found in humility and faith. The woman's words echoed in his mind, a steady compass pointing toward a path of justice and mercy. Though the future was uncertain and perilous, Ibrahim Traoré felt a newfound resolve stirring within him, fueled by a promise to protect his people with courage, kindness, and unwavering vigilance. And so, with the prayer mat ready to ground him in moments of need, the president prepared to face the challenges awaiting beyond the palace walls, a leader forever changed by the mysterious visitor who had come bearing gifts far greater than gold or power. The Grand Hall was alive with a buzz of anticipation and power as officials from across the nation and foreign delegates gathered for what was being billed as one of the most important conferences in recent memory. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting shimmering light over polished marble floors, and elegantly set tables adorned with fine china and gleaming silverware. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and delicate floral arrangements, masking the underlying tension of political ambitions and veiled alliances. Every corner of the room spoke of influence and wealth, a world far removed from the dusty streets outside. President Ibrahim Traoré entered the room with measured confidence. Dressed in a simple yet impeccably tailored outfit, he carried himself with the calm dignity expected of a man who bore the weight of a nation on his shoulders. His eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the crowd not just as a leader, but as a vigilant guardian aware of the dangers that lurked beneath the polished surface of diplomacy. While his smile was warm, it was tempered by caution. Optimism mingled with the wary knowledge that power's brightest lights often cast the darkest shadows. The conference began with speeches praising unity and progress, punctuated by polite applause. Yet beneath the surface, subtle glances and quiet whispers hinted at unspoken rivalries and secret agendas. As the formalities wound down, a tall man dressed in a sleek black suit approached the president. With a practiced smile, he presented a special meal said to be crafted by the country's top chefs, a gesture meant to honor the president and the occasion. Unbeknownst to the other guests, the small white stone that Ibrahim always carried, the stone of mercy, began to stir with a strange warmth beneath his palm. As he discreetly held it under the table, he felt the smooth surface shift, changing from its usual serene white to a deep, warning red. A subtle alarm blared silently in his spirit, a signal he had learned to heed. Without betraying any sign of alarm, President Ibrahim met the man in black with a courteous nod. "Thank you, but I must respectfully decline," he said calmly, pushing the plate away with gentle firmness. The room, attuned to his every move, fell momentarily silent. Puzzled whispers broke out among the assembled dignitaries. Some exchanged curious glances, wondering if the president's refusal was a mere personal preference or a sign of discomfort. Yet Ibrahim remained composed, his demeanor steady and unshaken. He masked the turmoil beneath his calm exterior, aware that any hint of suspicion could spark uncertainty or, worse, provoke hostile actions. His decision to reject the meal was swift and decisive, a quiet act of survival executed with the poise of a seasoned leader who understood the stakes were far higher than any banquet. As the murmurs continued, the president allowed himself a brief, private moment to press the stone again, confirming the warning it carried. The deep red glow persisted, a stark reminder that the danger was real, close, and hidden beneath the veneer of diplomacy and celebration. Though the guests remained oblivious, President Ibrahim's instincts had saved him from a perilous trap that could have ended his life and upended the fragile balance of power. This subtle but powerful moment marked a turning point, a silent victory in a shadowed war where trust was scarce and betrayal could come served on the finest plates. The Stone of Mercy had fulfilled its purpose once again, its mystical warning allowing a leader to navigate treacherous waters with quiet wisdom and unwavering courage. After calmly declining the suspicious meal, President Ibrahim Traoré excused himself from the banquet with the quiet authority that commanded respect, yet avoided unnecessary attention. His loyal guards moved swiftly but discreetly alongside him, ensuring his safe and secret departure from the Grand Hall. The chatter of surprised delegates faded behind them as the president was escorted away from the scene, retreating into the privacy and security of the palace's inner chambers. It was a move marked not by spectacle, but by the steady precision of a leader who knew the stakes far too well. Within the thick walls of the palace, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Trusted advisors gathered quickly, their faces grave as news of the attempted poisoning began to circulate through tightly guarded channels. The president's security team worked tirelessly, retracing every step of the banquet's preparations and scrutinizing every detail of the meal that had been served. The discovery of toxins hidden within the carefully crafted dishes sent shockwaves through the inner circle, a stark reminder that even the closest surroundings could harbor deadly threats. For President Ibrahim, the revelation was a bitter confirmation of the warnings given by the mysterious old woman and the mystical stone she had entrusted to him. Relief washed over him momentarily, knowing he had narrowly escaped a fate that might have ended not only his life but the fragile hopes of a nation. But relief was quickly replaced by a surge of anger and betrayal. How could those so near to power plot such a treacherous scheme? Who among his trusted circle had turned their loyalty into a weapon against him? The emotional turmoil was raw and complex. It was a leader's nightmare. To realize that the enemy was not always an obvious figure on a distant battlefield, but sometimes hid in plain sight, cloaked in smiles and false friendship. Trust, once broken, was difficult to rebuild. The president's heart ached with the weight of that betrayal, yet his resolve hardened. This was no longer just a political struggle, it was a fight for survival and integrity. As he paced his private study, the president's thoughts returned repeatedly to the old woman's words and the stone's eerie glow. Their warnings were not mere superstition, but a vital lifeline in a world where deception thrived. He felt a renewed sense of gratitude for the guidance he had received, a beacon in the murky waters of power where enemies lurked unseen. The mystical stone was no longer just a talisman. It had become a symbol of vigilance and protection, a physical reminder that the path ahead required more than strength. It demanded wisdom and constant awareness. In the quiet moments following the chaos, President Ibrahim confided in a few trusted aides about the incident and the mysterious origins of his protection. They listened with a mix of skepticism and awe, recognizing the gravity of their leader's burden and the precarious balance of trust and danger that defined their lives. Together, they vowed to keep the secret close, understanding that revealing it too soon could spark further unrest or embolden those who wished harm. This incident solidified the president's faith in the old woman's message and deepened his reliance on the stone's guidance. The experience taught him that in the corridors of power, appearances were deceiving and vigilance was essential. More than ever, Ibrahim Traoré was determined to lead with both courage and caution, embracing the dual nature of his role as protector and symbol of hope for his people. Though the threat had been narrowly averted, the shadows within his own circle had grown darker, and the battle for justice had only just begun. After the tense events of the banquet, President Ibrahim Traoré found solace in a quiet conversation with Khadija, his trusted aide. In the dim light of his private office, he confided in her the truth behind the mysterious stone and the old woman's warning, a secret too dangerous to share widely, but essential for survival. Khadija listened intently, her eyes reflecting a mix of disbelief, respect, and solemn understanding. She realized the weight of trust the president had placed in her and the gravity of the invisible threats lurking in their midst. From now on, Ibrahim said quietly, prayer must become our shield. The mat she gave me, it's not just a symbol. It is a place to seek guidance and strength when the burdens grow heavy. He unfolded the small prayer mat and placed it carefully in a quiet corner of his office, where light filtered softly through the window. Beside it, he positioned the stone of mercy prominently on his desk, a tangible reminder of the divine protection and vigilance he needed daily. Khadija nodded, her resolve firming alongside his. She understood that their leadership was not only a political battle, but a spiritual journey. Together, they pledged to keep faith at the heart of their routine. Prayers before every meal, moments of quiet reflection, and an unwavering commitment to watchfulness. The president's calm yet determined voice conveyed more than a plan. It was a vow to lead with both wisdom and caution, aware that every decision could tip the fragile balance between hope and despair. The atmosphere in the office was heavy with both hope and tension. The president's eyes, now accustomed to the stone's smooth surface, revealed a mind sharpened by recent trials but undeterred in purpose. The silent stone and the prayer mat were no longer mere objects. They had become sacred tools in a leader's arsenal against unseen enemies. As Khadija prepared to leave, she glanced back at the president, sensing the weight of the days ahead. The path was uncertain and fraught with peril, yet illuminated by a steadfast commitment to justice and mercy. Ibrahim Traoré sat back in his chair, fingers resting lightly on the stone, breathing in the solemn promise of protection and the resolve to face whatever darkness might come. Outside the palace walls, the city of Ouagadougou hummed with life, unaware of the silent battles waged within its heart. But inside, a leader fortified by faith and vigilance, prepared for the trials yet to come, ready to carry the hopes of a nation with courage, humility, and unwavering strength. The political climate within the palace had grown thick with tension, an invisible fog of whispered conspiracies and shifting alliances that clouded every conversation and glance. Behind the grand walls where power was brokered and decisions that shaped a nation were made, trust had become a scarce and precious commodity. Every smile seemed measured, every handshake potentially masking ulterior motives. The halls that once echoed with camaraderie now buzzed with suspicion, and shadows lengthened in the corners where allies might conceal enemies. President Ibrahim Traoré felt the weight of this growing unease pressing down upon him. His instincts, honed through years of navigating treacherous political waters, sharpened as he sensed the currents of distrust swirling ever closer. The warmth of loyalty he once felt from his closest aides began to chill, replaced by an undercurrent of doubt he could not ignore. No longer were whispers just background noise. They became the threads of a tangled web he was determined to unravel. Among those closest to him, subtle changes began to emerge. Khadija, his trusted aide and confidant, had always been a pillar of support, her presence steady, her loyalty unwavering. But now small signs betrayed a fracture beneath the surface. Her eyes, once clear and open, sometimes flickered with hesitation or avoided his gaze altogether. Brief moments of nervousness surfaced when questions were asked, and occasional unexplained absences raised quiet alarms. These were not the glaring betrayals of open hostility, but the quiet tremors of a trust beginning to crack. President Ibrahim's internal conflict deepened with each passing day. The sharp edge of suspicion cut far deeper when directed at those closest, those who shared his burdens and dreams for the nation. He wrestled with his desire to believe in the goodness of those around him and the gnawing fear that betrayal could come from the most unexpected places. His heart ached with the possibility that the walls he had built to protect himself might be breached not by enemies beyond, but by familiar faces within. Despite his growing wariness, Ibrahim remained careful, masking his concerns beneath a calm exterior. He observed, listened, and waited, aware that hasty accusations could fracture fragile alliances and that the path to uncovering the truth required patience and wisdom. The balance between trust and caution became a daily tightrope walk where every interaction was weighed and every word analyzed. The palace, once a sanctuary of governance, now felt like a stage where unseen battles were waged in silence. Alliances shifted like shadows, and loyalty was a currency constantly tested. President Ibrahim understood that to lead was to carry not only the hopes of a people, but the burden of discerning friend from foe. The emotional toll was immense, the loneliness of leadership compounded by the suspicion that those he trusted most might harbor secrets dangerous enough to topple his vision for the future. As the days wore on, the seeds of doubt planted by Khadija's subtle changes grew into a gnawing certainty within the president. He realized that the woman who had stood by his side in moments of triumph might now be the source of the greatest threat. The betrayal was not just political, it was deeply personal, a wound that cut through the very fabric of his leadership and faith. Yet amidst this storm of suspicion and fear, Ibrahim's resolve hardened. He knew that to protect his nation, he must confront this shadow looming within his inner circle. The struggle was no longer just for power, but for the survival of the ideals he held dear: justice, mercy, and the unwavering pursuit of a better future. The president braced himself for the revelations to come, aware that the battle ahead would test every ounce of his strength, wisdom, and courage. On a bright morning, as President Ibrahim Traoré prepared for a critical trip to meet with foreign investors, the usual hum of activity buzzed around him. The stakes were high. Billions of dollars in investment in the future development of the nation hung in the balance. His trusted aide, Khadija, moved efficiently beside him, clutching documents and coordinating the final details. Yet beneath the surface of this orchestrated effort, an undercurrent of tension simmered, one that only Ibrahim sensed fully. As he settled into the car, his hand instinctively reached into his pocket, seeking the small white stone that had become his silent protector. He felt its familiar coolness, but then, unexpectedly, a sharp burning sensation shot through his palm. The stone's surface had turned a fiery red, glowing intensely as if sounding an urgent alarm. A wave of unease washed over Ibrahim, a silent warning that danger was near, immediate and invisible to those around him. Without hesitation, he called out to the driver, "Stop the car! Turn back! We are returning to the palace." The command was calm but firm, leaving no room for question. Khadija frowned, visibly frustrated by the abrupt change in plans. "Sir, this meeting is too important to cancel. The investors are already waiting. We cannot afford delays," she protested, her voice edged with tension. Ibrahim's eyes met hers. This episode marked a critical turning point, a vivid reminder that vigilance and faith must walk hand in hand. As the stone's fiery glow slowly dimmed, Ibrahim prepared himself for the difficult path ahead, one where courage and caution would be his greatest allies in the fight to protect his nation and himself from those who lurked in the shadows. During a routine security sweep following the alarming red glow of the Stone of Mercy, Palace guards conducted a thorough search of all personnel close to President Ibrahim Traoré. When they reached Khadidia's belongings, a chill ran through the room as a small, suspicious device was uncovered, hidden within her bag. It was unmistakably a bomb switch, compact yet deadly, capable of devastating consequences. The discovery sent a ripple of shock through the security team, an unthinkable betrayal from someone so trusted. Khadidia was immediately detained. The suddenness of her arrest left her stunned, confusion clouding her features as she struggled to grasp the gravity of the situation. The woman who had once stood loyally by the president's side now found herself a prisoner in the very palace she served. Sorrow mingled with fear as the walls that had once offered sanctuary now felt cold and confining. President Ibrahim, upon learning of the bomb device, faced an emotional tempest. He summoned Khadidia to a secure chamber, the atmosphere heavy with disbelief and betrayal. When she entered, her eyes met his, wide with shock, tinged with sorrow, yet still searching for understanding. "Why?" he asked quietly, the pain in his voice barely contained. "I trusted you." The confrontation was raw and unvarnished. Khadidia's facade crumbled as she confessed the unbearable truth. She tearfully revealed that she had been coerced into this treacherous act. Threats to her family, promises of money, and manipulations by powerful political figures and foreign agents had forced her hand. She was but a pawn in a much larger game, a weapon wielded by those who feared the president's strength and honesty. Her confession named names: politicians who coveted power, foreign interests that sought to destabilize the nation, and corrupt businessmen threatened by Ibrahim's reforms. Each name was a dagger, piercing the president's heart but illuminating the shadowy enemies concealed within the corridors of power. Despite the overwhelming sense of betrayal, Ibrahim's resolve remained unbroken. He saw not only the pain inflicted, but also the broader battle against corruption and greed. The emotional weight of Khadidia's confession galvanized him, fueling his determination to protect his people and purge the palace of deceit. As Khadidia was led away to face justice, the nation watched in stunned silence. The president's strength, tempered by sorrow and resolve, became a beacon of hope for those yearning for truth and justice. The chapter closed on a somber yet resolute note: a leader betrayed but unyielding, prepared to confront the darkness threatening his country and to emerge stronger for it. The courtroom was filled to capacity on the day of Khadidia's trial, a somber atmosphere hanging heavy in the air. Journalists, citizens, and officials alike gathered to witness the proceedings that would not only determine the fate of a trusted aide, but also mark a pivotal moment for the nation. The walls echoed with hushed murmurs as Khadidia, once close to President Ibrahim Traoré, stood before the judge, her face pale and marked by regret. The evidence presented was overwhelming. The bomb device found in her possession, her confession revealing the coercion and betrayal, and the testimonies that uncovered the web of corruption she had been entangled in. The court listened intently as the judge delivered a stern verdict. Khadidia was sentenced to 80 years in prison without the possibility of parole, a sentence meant to serve as a strong message against treason and corruption. Outside the courthouse, the public reaction was complex and deeply emotional. Many mourned the fall of someone once considered loyal, their sorrow mingled with relief that justice had been served before catastrophe struck. There was an undeniable sense of gratitude toward President Ibrahim Traoré for his wisdom and steadfastness in navigating such treacherous waters. His ability to uncover the betrayal and protect the nation resonated strongly with the people, reaffirming their faith in his leadership. In a powerful speech delivered soon after the verdict, President Ibrahim addressed the nation with calm dignity. He spoke of justice, not as a tool for vengeance, but as a pillar for peace and order. "We must uphold the rule of law," he said, "for it is the foundation upon which our society stands. Yet justice alone is not enough. Forgiveness and vigilance must walk hand in hand. We forgive those who have been coerced and seek to rebuild what has been broken, but we remain ever watchful against those who seek to harm us." His words struck a chord across the nation, inspiring hope and resilience. The president emphasized the importance of unity and trust, urging citizens to remain steadfast in their commitment to a fair and just society. "This trial is a reminder," he concluded, "that our strength lies not only in our power, but in our integrity and courage to face difficult truths." The emotional uplift that followed was palpable. Citizens from all walks of life expressed renewed confidence in their leader and the future of their country. The ordeal had been painful, but it had also revealed the resilience of their nation and the unyielding spirit of its people. President Ibrahim stood as a symbol of that spirit, a leader tempered by trials but unwavering in his commitment to justice and mercy. The path ahead remained fraught with challenges, but the nation now marched forward with a renewed sense of purpose, guided by a leader who had proven his dedication to their safety and well-being. The chapter closed with a hopeful tone, the echoes of the president's speech lingering in the hearts of many, reminding them that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, justice and unity could prevail. In the quiet solitude of his private chamber, President Ibrahim Traoré found a rare moment of peace amidst the turmoil that had shaken his world. The Grand Palace, usually alive with activity and the constant hum of political maneuvering, now felt still and reflective. Kneeling upon the prayer mat gifted by the mysterious old woman, he closed his eyes and lifted his hands in silent supplication. The weight of leadership pressed upon him, yet in these moments of prayer, a renewed sense of faith and clarity began to take root deep within his heart. The stone of mercy rested gently in his palm, its surface once again glowing with a brilliant white light, a stark contrast to the ominous red that had warned him of danger. This transformation was more than symbolic. It was a sign of renewed hope, a beacon that affirmed his belief in the divine guidance that had led him through the darkest trials. With each breath, Ibrahim felt his connection to Allah strengthen, reinforcing his resolve to carry out the mission entrusted to him. He reflected on the journey so far, the betrayals, the narrow escapes, and the unyielding determination that had seen him through. The challenges were far from over, but his faith had become an anchor, steadying him against the storms to come. The prayer mat beneath him was a reminder that strength was not solely in power or strategy, but in humility, compassion, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. As he rose from his knees, Ibrahim's gaze fell upon the stone, now radiant and pure. It symbolized not only protection, but the promise of renewal, a cycle of struggle, reflection, and growth that defined his path as a leader. The trials he faced had tested his spirit, yet they also forged a deeper understanding of his purpose and the sacrifices required to fulfill it. The president's heart swelled with a quiet confidence. Though shadows still loomed on the horizon, he was ready to face them with courage and wisdom. The faith that guided him was a powerful force, one that would sustain him and his people through the uncertainty ahead. With a final prayer whispered into the stillness, Ibrahim Traoré embraced the dawn of a new chapter. It was a chapter defined by hope, hope that justice would prevail, that peace could be achieved, and that the light of mercy and truth would shine brighter than ever before. The atmosphere inside the presidential palace was charged with anticipation as preparations were underway for another crucial meeting, one that promised to secure vital foreign investment to fuel Burkina Faso's burgeoning development projects. Officials moved briskly through the ornate halls, documents in hand, discussing strategies and agendas, while security personnel tightened their vigilant watch. Every detail was meticulously planned, the stakes were high, and failure was not an option. President Ibrahim Traoré, dressed in his customary simple yet dignified attire, reviewed the final briefings with a calm focus. His mind, however, was far from settled. The stone of mercy rested securely in his pocket, a constant companion and silent guardian. As he sat reviewing notes, a sudden, sharp warmth flared in his palm. The stone's surface began to glow a deep, ominous red, its warning unmistakable and urgent. The color pulsed with intensity, disrupting the steady calm Ibrahim had cultivated. The president's eyes narrowed as he felt the familiar yet alarming signal. Without hesitation, he stood and addressed his closest aides and security detail. "Cancel all plans for the meeting immediately," he commanded, his voice steady but imbued with authority. "We return to the palace at once." The order sent ripples of confusion and surprise through the room. Khadija, visibly unsettled, exchanged worried glances with the security chief. Questions hung unspoken in the air. Why this sudden reversal? The foreign investors were already waiting. The opportunity was critical. Yet Ibrahim's decision was resolute. and his aides knew better than to question his instincts. As the convoy reversed course and made its way back to the palace, tension thickened among the aides and guards. Conversations fell into hushed tones, and the usual smooth coordination was disrupted by a sense of unease. The glowing red stone had spoken once more, signaling imminent danger that none but the president could sense. Khadidia's frustration was palpable, her jaw clenched as she struggled to reconcile the importance of the meeting with the silent but powerful warning emanating from the stone. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on the group, shadows of doubt creeping into their minds. Upon their return, the palace was immediately secured with heightened alertness. President Ibrahim moved swiftly to his private chambers, the tension from the journey lingering like a heavy fog. The red glow of the stone remained a stark reminder of the threats lurking just beyond sight, threats that demanded vigilance and swift action. This sudden emergence of danger served as a harsh reminder that the challenges faced were far from over. The path ahead was fraught with hidden perils, and only through unwavering caution and faith could the president hope to navigate the treacherous waters that surrounded him. As the day wore on, the palace buzzed with quiet urgency. A nation's fate balanced on the razor's edge, held steady by a leader guided by both wisdom and the mysterious power of the Stone of Mercy. In the stillness of the evening, President Ibrahim Traoré knelt upon his prayer mat, seeking solace and guidance from Allah amidst the mounting dangers that threatened his nation and his very life. The soft glow of candlelight flickered across the walls, casting long shadows that danced like silent sentinels guarding the room. As he whispered prayers, his heart heavy with the weight of leadership, a sudden calm enveloped him, a presence both familiar and profound. Before him, the old woman appeared once again, not in flesh but as a vision born of faith and desperation. She stood quietly in the corner of the room, her ragged clothes and worn scarf as vivid as the day she first arrived, yet her eyes shone with a light that transcended mortal bounds. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the storm raging within Ibrahim's soul, offering both comfort and a chilling reminder of the battles yet to come. "Mama," Ibrahim whispered, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and gratitude, "you have returned." She nodded slowly, her gaze steady and unwavering. "The stone has called you, Ibrahim. You heeded its warning, but the threat has not passed. The shadows deepen, and the danger is closer than ever." Their conversation unfolded with a quiet intensity, words laden with meaning and urgency. The old woman revealed the latest plot, one more insidious than before, striking at the heart of the president's closest circle. "Khadidia, the one you trusted most, has turned against you. She carries the poison of betrayal, sent by those who fear your light and seek to extinguish it." Ibrahim's breath caught in his throat, the pain of the revelation piercing deeper than any blade. The woman's words confirmed his darkest suspicions, turning whispers into undeniable truth. "How could she?" he asked softly, the ache in his voice betraying his anguish. "Fear and greed have clouded her heart," the woman replied gently. "She was forced into this path, but the danger she represents is real and immediate. The enemies who surround you wear many faces, and the web of deceit grows wider." Despite the heavy truth, the vision carried a message of hope and resolve. "Do not falter, Ibrahim. Your strength lies not only in your power, but in your faith and humility. Remember the lessons of mercy and vigilance. The fight is not just for survival, but for the future of your people." Moved by her presence and words, Ibrahim felt a renewed determination ignite within him. The fear that had gripped him was tempered by gratitude for this divine guidance and the courage to face the peril head-on. "Thank you, Mama," he said with heartfelt sincerity. "Your wisdom lights the path ahead." As the vision slowly faded, leaving behind the quiet stillness of the room, Ibrahim rose from his prayer mat, his spirit fortified. The hidden dangers within his own ranks had been unveiled, but so had the strength to confront them. The old woman's return was a beacon in the dark, a reminder that though shadows encroached, the light of justice and faith could never be fully extinguished. Outside, the night deepened, but within the palace, a leader prepared to stand firm, vigilant, courageous, and guided by a power greater than himself. The battle for his nation's soul was far from over, but armed with knowledge and unwavering resolve, President Ibrahim Traoré was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Under the cover of night, the palace grounds were alive with swift, precise movements as security forces executed coordinated arrests of those implicated in the latest conspiracy against President Ibrahim Traoré. The conspirators, once hidden behind layers of deceit and false loyalty, were finally unmasked and detained before their deadly plan could come to fruition. The discovery of the bomb device linked to Khadija had set off a chain of investigations, unraveling a dangerous network determined to dismantle the nation's fragile progress. The president watched solemnly as justice was served, aware that these actions were necessary not only for his own survival, but for the future of his people. His heart carried the weight of betrayal, yet also the strength of resilience forged through trials. In a quiet moment of reflection, Ibrahim renewed his vow to lead with humility and unwavering vigilance. He understood that true leadership demanded more than courage. It required constant awareness, a steady spirit, and the wisdom to navigate shadows without succumbing to them. Standing before trusted advisors, he spoke with calm authority, emphasizing the need for unity and faith. "We have faced darkness within our walls," he said, "but it is through trust, faith, and resilience that we will overcome. Let this be a reminder that our strength lies not just in power, but in our commitment to justice and mercy." His words resonated deeply, inspiring those around him to reaffirm their dedication to the nation's ideals. The emotional closure of this chapter was marked by a profound sense of hope tempered by sober reality. The president's journey had revealed the complexities of trust, how fragile it could be, and how vital it was to nurture and protect it. Faith had been his anchor, guiding him through storms of deception and danger, and resilience had become his armor. These themes intertwined to form the foundation upon which the nation's future would be built. As dawn broke, casting a golden light over the palace grounds, Ibrahim Traoré stood alone on the balcony, gazing toward the horizon. The city of Ouagadougou stretched out before him, vibrant and alive, full of promise and challenges alike. In that peaceful moment, the weight of leadership was heavy yet purposeful, a sacred responsibility embraced with humility and hope. The stone of mercy lay on his desk, its surface gleaming with renewed brightness, a symbol of protection and divine guidance. The prayer mat, folded neatly nearby, was a testament to the spiritual strength that sustained him. Together they embodied the balance of faith and vigilance that defined his path. With a quiet breath, the president looked forward, ready to face the future with courage and conviction. The battle had been fierce, the scars deep, but the resolve to protect his people and lead with integrity burned stronger than ever. The chapter closed not with an end, but with a powerful beginning. A leader fortified by faith, guided by wisdom, and prepared to carry the hopes of a nation into the days to come. As the final days of the tumultuous chapter unfolded, the mysterious woman who had altered the course of President Ibrahim Traoré's life faded into the shadows from which she had emerged. No farewell was spoken, no grand gesture marked her departure. Like a whisper carried away by the wind, she vanished, leaving behind only the profound impact of her presence and the gifts she had bestowed. No one saw her leave, and no trace remained to hint at where she had come from or where she might have gone. The palace gates closed silently behind her, sealing the enigma within its walls forever. Her disappearance was not merely an absence, but a powerful symbol, the silent guardian who watches over from afar, whose influence is felt even when unseen. The old woman embodied the notion that protectors do not always wear crowns or wield armies. Sometimes their power lies in quiet wisdom and unseen acts of courage. She was a living metaphor for the invisible forces of faith, resilience, and hope that guard the vulnerable and guide the just. Though her figure faded from sight, the lessons she imparted remained etched deeply in the hearts of those she touched. President Ibrahim Traoré often found himself reflecting on the woman's visit, her presence lingering in his memory like a gentle but unshakable light. The stone of mercy rested prominently on his desk, a constant reminder of her warning and her faith in his leadership. The prayer mat, once simply an object, had become a sacred space where he found strength and solace. These tokens, small yet profound, symbolize the invisible bonds between the seen and unseen, the earthly and the divine. Among his closest allies, gratitude ran deep and sincere. Khadija, once a figure of trust turned betrayal, now understood the gravity of the woman's mission and the precious gift she had delivered. Conversations often returned to the mysterious visitor, her humility, her strength, and the way she challenged them to rise above fear and suspicion. They spoke in hushed tones about the thin line between hope and despair, and how the woman had bridged that divide with grace and unwavering resolve. The president himself was humbled by the experience. Despite the challenges that lay ahead, he carried within him a renewed sense of purpose, fueled by the quiet courage of a stranger who had believed in him when others doubted. Her departure did not mark an end, but a beginning, a call to vigilance, compassion, and steadfast leadership that would shape his tenure in the nation's destiny. In moments of solitude, Ibrahim would gaze toward the horizon, feeling the weight of the woman's silent blessing. He understood that though she was gone, the spirit she embodied remained a guiding force, a beacon for all who seek justice in a world fraught with darkness. Her story, untold to many, became a sacred secret among those who knew its truth. It was a testament to the power of unseen guardians and the enduring strength of faith. As the palace returned to its daily rhythm, the legacy of the mysterious woman echoed quietly, reminding all that sometimes the greatest saviors walk unnoticed, their deeds whispered only in the hearts of the worthy. And so, with profound gratitude and a solemn promise to honor her gifts, President Ibrahim Traoré and his closest allies prepared to face the future, fortified by faith, wisdom, and the unyielding hope kindled by a quiet departure that changed everything. Following the turbulent events that had tested his leadership and spirit, President Ibrahim Traoré stood before his nation with a message that transcended politics and power. In a heartfelt address broadcast across Burkina Faso, he spoke not just as a leader, but as a fellow citizen who had faced the trials of trust, betrayal, and hope. Kindness, humility, and vigilance, he declared, are the pillars upon which true leadership stands. It is not strength alone that shapes a nation, but the compassion we show to one another and the wisdom to remain watchful against those who seek to harm us. His words resonated deeply with a country weary from struggle, yet eager for guidance. He shared how the gifts from the mysterious woman, the stone of mercy and the prayer mat, had become more than talismans. They were symbols of hope and resilience, reminders that faith and vigilance must walk hand in hand. These objects, once simple and unassuming, had transformed into beacons of protection and inspiration, illuminating the path forward for both the president and his people. Stories soon began to emerge from across the nation, testimonials from individuals whose lives had been touched by the president's journey. A young teacher spoke of renewed hope in her classroom, where lessons of courage and kindness replaced despair. An elder in a remote village recounted how the president's message rekindled faith in justice after years of hardship. Each narrative echoed the transformative power of leadership, grounded in humility and unwavering resolve. The president's journey became a shared story of resilience, inspiring countless citizens to embrace their roles in shaping the future. His emphasis on vigilance was not a call to fear, but a reminder to remain conscious of the forces that could undermine progress. We must be kind but never naive, he cautioned. Our vigilance protects the light that guides us, and our humility ensures we never lose sight of why we lead. Throughout the nation, the stone and prayer mat took on lives of their own, woven into cultural expressions and daily rituals. Artists painted them into murals symbolizing peace, while communities held gatherings centered around prayer and reflection, drawing strength from the president's example. These symbols fostered a renewed sense of unity and purpose, connecting people from cities to countryside in a collective embrace of hope. President Ibrahim's leadership had become a testament to the power of faith and integrity in the face of adversity. His message extended beyond governance, touching the very heart of humanity, a call to lead with kindness, to walk humbly, and to stand vigilant. As his words spread, so too did a movement of renewed spirit, one that promised not just survival, but the flourishing of a nation bound by shared values and unwavering courage. In embracing these lessons, Burkina Faso looked toward a future shaped by leaders and citizens alike, who understood that true strength lies in the harmony of compassion, humility, and alertness. The president's story was no longer just his own, but belonged to all who dared to hope, to act, and to believe in a better tomorrow. As the sun began to rise over Ouagadougou, casting warm golden hues across the city, President Ibrahim Traoré stood quietly on the balcony of the presidential palace. The new day was a powerful symbol, a fresh beginning after seasons of trials, betrayal, and resilience. The soft light illuminated his thoughtful face, reflecting a leader shaped by faith, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to his people. In this moment of calm, he understood deeply that leadership was more than authority. It was a sacred trust grounded in compassion and strengthened by enduring strength. Faith had been his guiding light through the darkest hours, a source of solace and courage when dangers loomed unseen. Wisdom, born from experience and reflection, tempered his decisions, allowing him to navigate treacherous waters without losing sight of justice and mercy. Together, they formed the foundation of his leadership, a beacon not just for himself but for the nation he served. President Ibrahim's resolve was clear: to continue serving with humility and strength, carrying forward the legacy of kindness and vigilance that had become his hallmark. He knew the path ahead would not be easy, the challenges would persist, but his spirit was fortified by the knowledge that true leadership flourishes in the balance of heart and mind. As the city awakened below, alive with the sounds of morning, Ibrahim's thoughts turned outward, to the people who depended on his guidance, and to the future generations who would inherit the fruits of today's decisions. The sunrise was not only a symbol of new beginnings, but a reminder that every day brought an opportunity to rebuild, to heal, and to grow stronger together. He lifted his gaze toward the horizon, a silent promise etched in the depths of his eyes. May we all find the courage to lead with faith, to act with wisdom, and to walk with compassion, he reflected. His journey was far from over, but the lessons learned and the hope kindled would light the way forward. And as you watch or read this story, remember, each of us holds the power to be a beacon in our own lives. Through kindness, humility, and vigilance, we can illuminate the darkness around us and inspire change that echoes far beyond ourselves. The dawn of a new day is always within reach. The question is, will we rise to meet it? Woman who gifted him the stone of mercy is more than a tale of political intrigue. It's a profound reminder of the delicate balance between power, faith, and humility. Leadership, as depicted here, is not just about authority or strength, but about carrying immense responsibility with kindness and vigilance. The president's journey shows us that even in the face of betrayal and danger, holding on to core values like compassion and wisdom can guide us through the darkest moments. What truly stands out is the symbol of the stone and the prayer mat, simple objects that embody trust, spiritual strength, and protection. They remind us that true power comes from within and that faith can be a powerful shield against life's challenges. This story encourages us to look beyond appearances, to trust our intuition, and to stay grounded in our principles, especially when confronted with uncertainty. Moreover, it highlights the reality that threats often come from the most unexpected places, and the importance of being cautious without losing our humanity. The emotional depth of the narrative invites us to reflect on our own lives. How do we handle moments of doubt and betrayal? How do we stay resilient and kind when faced with adversity? I invite you to think about this. In your own journey, what stones and prayer mats do you carry? Symbols or practices that help you stay strong and true to yourself? How do you balance vigilance with compassion in your daily life? If this story touched you, don't let it stop here. Like, share, and subscribe to Captain of Truth, where every voice matters and every story echoes far beyond the screen. This story is a fictionalized and dramatized narrative created for educational, inspirational, and storytelling purposes. While it may be inspired by real public events, people, or societal issues, it includes imagined dialogue, reconstructed scenes, and character interpretations meant to highlight broader themes of justice, dignity, and resilience. Any resemblance to actual events or individuals beyond public knowledge is purely coincidental. We do not intend to defame, mislead, or harm, but to invite reflection and meaningful conversation. Thank you for watching Captain of Truth.